Good afternoon. I'm Tom Holman. I'm the Acting Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE. Targeting, arresting, and removing members of violent street gangs such as MS-13 sends a clear message to criminal enterprises around the world. You are not welcome in the United States, and you will find no harbor here. President Trump made it a priority to get these criminals off our streets and, when possible, out of our country. And that's exactly what the men and women of ICE are going to do every single day to help keep America safe. ICE's Homeland Security Investigations, known as HSI, National Gang Unit, leads our efforts along with our deportation officers to identify and arrest gang members while working to dismantle the organizational structure that supports them. Gang members are involved in a broad range of criminal activity, including murder, extortion, narcotics trafficking, weapons trafficking, human smuggling, and other crimes with a nexus to border security. Since the beginning of January of this year, ICE's Homeland Security Investigation has already arrested 3,311 gang members across the country in a number of targeted operations. I'll speak just about two. Project New Dawn, a recent gang surge led by ICE HSI, netted 1,378 gang arrests. Operation Matador, up in New York State, since May 9th, has netted over 100 gang members and affiliates, vast majority of MS-13 members. Make no mistake, organized violent transnational gangs threaten the safety of our communities, not just in major metropolitan areas, but in our suburbs like Suffolk County in New York, where I'll be joining the President tomorrow to discuss this very issue. Let me share just a couple examples that demonstrate the violence of these criminals. Recently, two MS-13 members who were juveniles, arrested as part of Operation Matador, have been implicated in the quadruple homicide of 4 young adults in New York. An additional MS-13 arrest admitted to being complicit in homicides of 2 juvenile females. Multiple other Operation Matador MS-13 arrests have led to admissions of narcotics trafficking, weapons smuggling, and intelligence and other unsolved crimes in the region. The proliferation of MS-13 remains an ongoing challenge for law enforcement everywhere. Our efforts to eradicate gangs such as this are much more effective in areas where our partnership with local law enforcement is the strongest. As I said the last time I was here, I cannot stress enough, our operations are more effective when there are strong local partnerships supporting them. Sanctuary city policies only make it more difficult, if not impossible, for ICE to remove known gang members and other criminal aliens who are removed from this country without the opportunity to commit additional crimes. As I said when I was here at the podium a month ago, cooperation is critical. It is often state and local law enforcement, not ICE, that first come into contact with transnational gang members. Together, through partnership, we can keep our streets safe. Together, our gang is bigger than theirs. In addition to making our communities safer, the intelligence gathered from operations targeting MS-13 helps our agents and investigators continue their efforts to fully dismantle these global criminal enterprises. From the command and control structure in El Salvador to the street members walking our communities and everybody in between. In closing, I'll say this: the progress we're making would not be possible without the brave and dedicated men and women of ICE. These are professionals, American patriots, who leave the safety of their homes and their families every day to help keep us safe, to keep people safe they'll never meet. And I am honored and proud to represent them here today. With that, I'll take questions. Sir?
Thank you. In Montgomery County, there has been MS-13 activity, and when they have prosecuted MS-13 there, they have said that the members of MS-13, some of them are citizens, and to get help from the immigrant community where they're plaguing, the plague is on the immigrant community, that they have not been successful because they're afraid of being taken out of the country, that you're going to deport them. So for those in the immigrant community who are being taken advantage of, are you going to offer any type of support for those who are not involved in MS-13 who come forward to assist law enforcement? Because local law enforcement says that's the largest problem they have in getting people to come forward. They think they're going to be deported.
Well, you all can help with that message, right? I mean, the mismessaging that ICE is out there doing neighborhood raids and roadblocks and and things that we were being accused of doing. We got to get the message straight. ICE prioritizes our arrests based on criminal threats, national security, those who violate immigration laws. However, if they're a victim or witness, we're not out looking for victims or witnesses. I believe that these, especially MS-13, they victimize the very communities in which they live. So if the immigrant community is being victimized, they don't want them in the community either. They should be safe to go to law enforcement, report the crime. Again, we do not target victims of crime. Matter of fact, there's actually benefits to victims of crimes through the immigration process. So they should feel safe to go and report criminal activity, and we're going to target the most violent criminals, not the witness, not the victims, to remove them. And we need their help. We need the community's help, and most importantly, we need local law enforcement's help, especially county jails that will have an MS-13 booked in that county jail, but if that county jail is located in Sanctuary City, they get released back to the streets. That's what we need to change. We need cooperation from local law enforcement.
But you're saying, point blank,
Ma'am.
you're not going to take advantage of the immigrant communities who are victims, right?
Taking advantage of the immigrant community. Look,
if they're victims, they're not going to be deported.
We need the immigrant community to assist us in identifying the most heinous criminals, and that's MS-13. It's the most violent gang out there. So again, I'll say this again: if there's a victim of crime and they come forward, we're not looking to arrest a victim of crime. We're looking to arrest the bad guy, right? Now let me make this clear. Now, am I saying there's a population of illegal aliens are off the table? I'm not saying that. But victims of crime have certain protections, and they need to take full advantage of those protections. Ma'am?
Thank you. Do you have a count for how many people are actually a part of the MS-13 in cities across the country? And what has the reaction been from sanctuary cities to the new policy that was announced earlier this week by the Attorney General? And if you could speak broadly about, obviously the President's been very critical of the Attorney General recently. He is overseeing everything that you're talking about. Has that criticism in any way impacted your ability, federal law enforcement's ability to do their jobs?
That's a lot of questions. I can tell you that thousands of MS-13 members in the country, and that number changes every day depending on who we deport, who sneaks in the country. As far as sanctuary cities, I don't know how they feel about the recent legislation, the recent action taken by DOJ, but I'll say it once again. Sanctuary cities are criminals' biggest friend. If you're an alien smuggler, and you're smuggling people in this country for a living, that's one sales pitch. We can get you to a sanctuary city where that city will help shield you from immigration. So, you know, I've said it every time I speak. I say it, sanctuary cities need to help us keep the community safe. Sanctuary cities not only endanger public safety, they endanger my law enforcement officers, because when we can't get a criminal alien, violent alien out of a county jail, it means one of our officers have to go knock on a door, which anybody in law enforcement knows that's one of the most dangerous things to do. So rather than arresting a violent criminal in the safety, security, and privacy of a county jail, we got to go knock on a door. We got to arrest them in the community. If the community's put at risk, our officers are put at risk, and the alien himself is put at risk. We got to start thinking about public safety and the men and women of ICE, and the men and women of the Border Patrol, who we've lost many over the last few years at the hands of violent criminal aliens. We got to join forces with these cities. These cities have to come to us. They have to work with us to keep our community safe. Sir?
The Attorney General? Anything on the Attorney General?
What was the question, Attorney General?
The fact that the President's been criticizing him recently, has that in any way impacted your ability, federal law enforcement's ability to do their job?
ICE is going to do our job. We're going to continue to enforce the law. The Attorney General is a strong supporter of immigration enforcement. So isn't the President. And I'll end it there, but I can tell you, nothing's going to change the way we do our business. The men and women are ICE professionals. We're going to keep enforcing law within the orders of the executive order. Sir?
The previous administration also told the country to prioritize criminal gangs. Are you telling the country now that it didn't? And if you're not, what is different about your approach as compared to the previous administration's approach with MS-13 and those gangs like it?
Well, I can tell you that the prior administration prioritize criminals, not security threats. But the difference is, for those that criminal aliens get booked in a county jail, on the prior administration, they needed a conviction before we can even put a detainer on and ask for them to come in our custody. That's not necessary anymore. If you've been arrested for a serious crime and you're in a county jail, we're going to drop a detainer. We're going to take the person in custody.
What does that mean, dropping a detainer?
That means we're asking the local jurisdiction to hang on to them until we can get there to take custody of them when they're done with you.
Has that proven effective?
Yes, I think we got more jurisdictions coming to the table now. Even, the story is, we got sanctuary cities here and there, but more jurisdictions, more law enforcement coming to the table now. The 287G agreements, we've already doubled those agreements on this administration. I expect to triple those agreements by the end of the year. Most law enforcement agrees with what I'm saying up here. The street cops, they want to work with us, and they want to identify these threats to the community and get them out of their communities. These people are not welcome in the communities, and local law enforcement are teaming up with us. The operation I spoke about here in New York City, we work with Nassau County, Suffolk County, NYPD. All these jurisdictions want to get the criminal element out of their neighborhoods. The immigrant communities themselves, they don't want these people in their communities. We all should be on the same page here. But again, New York City, one of those places where we can't get into Rikers Island and put our hands on people that are here illegally and the criminal aliens. When it comes to gang members walk out of county jails and sanctuary cities every day across this country. That's what we need to change. Man.
How are suspected gang members being identified for ICE enforcement? Is it just through local law enforcement? Are there databases that you're using? Like, how do you know how to find these gang members?
Local law enforcement, they're usually ones that, they have the most intelligence on gang members. As far as what we look for to find gang members, I'd rather not discuss that, because I certainly don't want to share that information with the gang members who may be watching and say, okay, well, we'll just do this a little bit different. There is a myriad of factors we look. It's just not, we don't arrest people for the way they look. I'm going to make that clear, because I've seen media accounts about people with tattoos and clothing. That is one of many, many factors we look at. So it's really quite law enforcement sensitive how we identify, target, and locate gang members. So I can tell you that the men and women of ICE are well trained. Other federal agencies, whether it's the Bureau or whether it's the Suffolk County, Nassau County, Nassau County, they do this for a living. They're professionals. They look at a lot of factors, including database checks. But I'd rather not share the factors we all consider to look at that, because I really don't want to share that with the criminal element who may be watching this program.
Thank you. You said that victims of crimes who are immigrants will not be targeted. In February, your agency detained a woman in El Paso, Texas, who was seeking a protective order against a domestic abuser. Can you say now that your agency will not be doing that again? And if it's been done in the past, why should we believe you that it won't be done in the future?
Okay, with that case you're talking about, you obviously don't know all the facts that I do. That is not the way. There's much more of that story than you're presenting here today. I can tell you that was a solid arrest, and it's under litigation. I can't give you all the information I have. That was a good arrest. That was a public safety arrest, and I can't say any more because it's in litigation.
One last question. You focused, and the president's going to focus tomorrow on the most violent gangs, MS-13, and suggesting that that's what ICE is focused on. I'm reading a story here from just last month that said the biggest number that ICE arrests are up of illegal immigrants, and the sharpest spike is seen for non-criminals. I think that the other side of the issue would say that ICE and this administration really is going after non-criminals and just using these moments to sort of suggest otherwise. What do you think about that?
It's ridiculous. I mean, when under prior administration, non-criminals were not a priority. So when you go from 0 to 100, of course you're going to see the biggest rise in that. The executive orders are clear. Anybody reads the executive orders, no population's off the table. So non-criminals, yeah, those that are got a court order from a judge that refused to leave, we're looking for them. Those who enter the country illegally, I've said it 100 times, that is a crime to enter this country illegally. And when they get their due process at great government, at great taxpayer expense, billions of dollars are spent on border security, immigration court, detention. So when they get their due process and a federal judge orders them removed, that order needs to mean something, or the whole system has no integrity. Nowhere else in law enforcement has anybody asked a law enforcement agency to ignore a judge's order from a bench. They've had their due process. Our job is to enforce those orders, and that's what we do. And for the people that say that we concentrate too much on those that are not criminals beyond them committing a crime entering the country illegally, they've not committed yet another crime, you should ignore them. They've been here. Let them go. That message drives what happened in San Antonio. That message drives what happened in Victoria, Texas, that I investigated back in 2003. If we send the message that if you get into the country, you get by the Border Patrol, and don't get arrested by local law enforcement for another crime, no one's looking for you, that is a magnet, that is a pull factor. We got to stop that messaging. We got to tell people it's not okay to violate the laws of this country. You can't want to be a part of this country and not respect its laws. You can't have it both ways. So until we get that message clear, that there is no safe haven here, and if you're in sanctuary cities, that's where we'll send additional resources, look for you at your home, at place of employment. We're going to enforce the law. We got to stop sending the message that people that don't commit yet another crime should be forgotten. Don't enforce the law.
If I could, on a previous question, you said you need the cooperation of local communities. We hear that a lot from law enforcement, and including American immigrants, families that are maybe have mixed situations. The President Trump the other day called it in a speech in Ohio twice referred to criminal gang members as animals. I think there are some who would say, well, that's sort of another attempt to paint broader swaths of immigrants as criminal and violent. He wasn't that specific about who he's talking about necessarily, and I'm wondering if you think that kind of rhetoric is appropriate, or whether that could, potentially set back some of your efforts in trying to convince community members to work with your department.
As a criminal law enforcement officer, I can tell you that criminal aliens are a threat not only to public safety, but to national security. We got to enforce the laws. The men and women at ICE are doing it in a professional manner. And I shared with you the last time I was here why it's so important to let the folks know in Central America and Mexico, let those that want to come to the United States to find themselves in a sanctuary city, why it's so important to send the message they should not make that dangerous trek. In my years of 33 years of doing this job, these are criminal organizations that transport these people into the country. The same organizations, the same illicit pathways that smuggle drugs, smuggle weapons, and smuggle people that want to do harm to this country. And by continuing to ignore that segment of the illegal population, we are bankrolling these criminal organizations. As I said earlier, sanctuary cities, that's the alien smuggler's best friend. That's their advertisement. We'll get you to a sanctuary city. And I'm telling you, what I've seen in my career, I've seen people that were killed could not pay their smuggling fee. I've seen, we talked to women that have been raped, children's been molested, people have been killed. I shared with a media yesterday in Phoenix, Arizona, during the hostage crisis several years ago, people couldn't pay their fees. The fees would double once they got it. They couldn't pay the fees. We rescued one man who was duct taped from head to toe. His whole face and head were duct taped, and had a hole poked in the mouth with a straw so he could breathe for 2 days. When I was in Victoria, Texas, I did stand in back of a tractor trailer in 19 Dead Aliens with a 5-year-old that suffered. What do you think that 5-year-old went through the last 30 minutes of his life? What do you think his father went through the last 30 minutes of his life, looking down his child, knowing he couldn't help him because they're locked him back to a tractor trailer? I'm not calling anybody animal. I'm saying there's those who break the law and those who don't break the law. You've got to respect the laws of this country. There's millions of people that are members of society that enter this country the right way. And that's what we need to push. We need to push. Enter this. There's a legal way and an illegal way. We got to be pushing the legal message out there and stop sending this message that if you don't commit yet another crime beyond the crime you committed when you came to this country, that it's okay to be here. It's not okay to be here illegally. It's not okay to violate the laws of this country. We're going to enforce the law. That is why, with everything you're reading right now and all these horrific events, that's why we need more. We need the 10,000 officers that President Trump has promised, so we can go after these gangs even harder in the criminal alien population. We need the border wall. Border wall is one more tool in the toolbox that might prevent some of the things from happening. That is why what President Trump is asking us to do, that is what he's proposing for border security, makes sense to the law enforcement community. Not just Tom Homan at ICE, but the 20,000 men and women that work at ICE, the 20,000 Border Patrol agents that wear the uniform and step on the front line every day. We need this help. We need these executive orders to make sense of what we do every day.
Thanks so much, Tom. We really appreciate it.